Welcome back from the commercials. Once again, you are watching the current crossover with Capital Cineforum. What do you guys call yourselves, Capital Cineforum, by the way?
Literally, the real story, Marshall Douglas was
I don't have an answer
hungover
for that.
one morning, and he was
He was
drawing
like,
out
we
names.
need to make it sound professional.
He wanted a cool name, and he wrote that down. He was like, "Yeah, that sounds pretty fucking cool." And then we had it. We were Cineforum. He doesn't know what it means.
That's literally it. No one knows.
We haven't even spelled it the same way historically.
Hey, Jake, how did you
true.
come up with our name? Oh, yeah, we stole it.
We stole it. Yeah, we stole it.
We stole it.
There you go. Props for stealing.
Theft.
All right, so...
It's called intellectual
after-
borrowing, right? Borrowing
Intellectual
property.
We
Yeah,
got
that's true.
the rights to it.
You
somehow.
Inception did.
Yeah.
All right, so last time we were talking about what was it? Star Wars Blu-rays and talking about. So I think we were all in agreement that the political overtone kind of really killed the movies,
among
and
other
I think
things.
we're kind of in agreement that for the most part, directors shouldn't be going back and touching and like retouching these classic movies that we all love. So points, Edward, you get 3 points. I like your face.
Yeah.
Edward,
Nice.
You made a great point. You made great points about the whole.
I made some good points.
About the whole
I made some good
stuff.
Yeah,
Stuff.
just
I was listening somewhat. And Jake, you get 2 points for
well, I'm a female.
affirmative action. Affirmative
Wow.
action.
Wow.
Seems like we all have opinions about 3D movies.
Yep.
Apparently,
Yeah.
we do. There's a lot of mixed opinions. James Cameron really brought back this fad with Avatar. I'd like to talk a little bit first about Avatar. What are your opinions about it as a movie?
Are we moving down the line?
I guess
Moving down the line.
moving down the line.
Starting with Edward.
Avatar, like everyone was like, "Oh, it's Pocahontas with blue people," and that's legit. But all Hollywood movies follow formulas to an extent, and we're deluding ourselves when we claim that they aren't. And so I feel like that's not the grounds to dismiss it. I think there's problems with the movie, but overall, it's a relatively entertaining Hollywood film with some pretty visuals, and I don't mind it like some people do.
Yeah.
I don't think it deserves to be called a game changer the way that it does. But I didn't mind it. I would watch it again if it was on. I just won't study it and worship it.
So you're saying that based on the merits of what a good film is, it kind of follows that textbok formula.
Yeah.
Everything that a good film should have.
It's definitely that, yeah.
Okay. Evan,
To me, I feel like yes, there is a very valid point in that yes, every story follows a formula. However, when you follow it down to the exact details of a story that's been already overtold, I think it's safe to say it's a little unoriginal. And it's pretty trite and it's pretty contrived. And I think that with $300 million invested into this film, could he not have made a better story?
He could have thought of another name for unobtainium.
$3 million doesn't buy you
Unobtainium?
writers. $3 million buys you looks.
I'm just
Writers don't
that's my
have
thing.
looks.
With
You guys
all
know
that
this.
budget, all that budget could not buy him a good story. And I think that says something about him as
As a person.
As a person.
Yeah.
As a storyteller.
So once again, money for writers money doesn't buy you writers. Writers don't have looks.
Money doesn't buy you class.
Jake, what do you think?
Wow, I could just go on a whole dissertation about it. By the way, I have to disagree with you, and
I'd rather you
I disagree
not.
with Edward and say that I'd say it's more like Dance with Wolves with aliens instead of Pocahontas.
Okay, fair enough.
I like
Dance
Dancing
with
with
Wolves
Wolves.
is like Pocahontas, but with wolves.
Well, Dance with Wolves killed Pocahontas. But that's aside from the point.
Pocahontas is like dances with wolves without wolves.
Pocahontas is a real story, guys.
Yeah, that's historically accurate.
Getting back to
Historically
my
accurate.
point. Getting
She
back to
talked
my
to the
point.
tree.
Getting back to my point.
With all the colors.
All right, let you
Avatar,
talk,
but speaking of Avatar, I mean, it looked really good. That's all I can say. It looked really good. Story-wise, I can understand. When it comes to formula, you know what they say. I could use the whole cake metaphor. You can get sugar, chocolate, and eggs, and you can get a whole slew of different recipes. I mean, you can get chocolate mousse, you can get chocolate cake. Using that as my own little analogy.
I got you. Desserts.
You
It
can
tastes
make-
great. It
You
tastes
can
great,
make
son.
some stuff
But the
with
thing is,
sugar.
Cake maker bake a cake.
Host speaking,
Wait.
guys. Host
If
speaking.
the
Guys.
way
The
is
host is
hazy.
speaking.
All right.
Guys. The
All
host
right.
is speaking. The host is speaking. Moving on. Anyways, so how would you say that 3D movies that are coming out nowadays, that are in the post-Avatar world, how would you say that the work that they're doing to incorporate 3D? Would you say they're kind of forcing 3D on these next few movies?
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of them, they go back in post and go oh, let's just separate it. So there's a paper layer that's forward, right? There's some movies that I've liked. I mean, Cave of Forgotten Dreams is visually beautiful. How to Train Your Dragon, I thought the 3D benefited it. There's some movies where I'm like, okay, yeah. But ultimately, I don't want to go through the hassle of wearing glasses in the theater. I think it is a gimmick. I don't think it adds something truly constructive because we can't control the three-dimensionality of it the way you can control other filmic aspects and dimensions. So I don't care for it. I think it's usually a waste of time. It can be pretty or it can be helpful, but usually it's a waste of time.
And speaking of 3D glasses, the other thing I'm worried about, just being kind of germaphobe,
Yeah.
pink eye.
Yep.
Well,
I'm
me
like,
Unless
personally,
somebody sat on the glasses before you.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they clean them, but I personally, it gives me migraines, and this isn't the first time that 3D's come around. Like,
True.
there was 3D fads, like, even in the 50s, I think
Yeah.
the 80s too. Like, it's ridiculous, and it does not, to me, in my opinion, aid the storytelling element. Like,
No, yeah.
when you think of your favorite movies, you don't think, oh wow, this would have been so much better if I had glasses on, I could see, like, the layers. Like, no. Like,
If only in Gone with the Wind.
Lawrence of Arabia did not need to be in 3D.
Right.
Why? Because it was an awesome story. Like,
Yeah.
that's
And Peter O'Toole did one hell of a job too.
yeah, I know.
That too.
And
This is going to be the
So-
agreeing with each other panels tonight.
But I'll say that 3D.
So
I
are
think-
there no positive sides of 3D?
Well, I'll say 3D is just.
I honestly don't see
I think it's
the-
just a
the
dying
positives.
medium. It's a dying medium. It's temporary. Like, you know how the smell-o-vision back when movies try to go back. Yeah, smell-o-vision. Believe it or not, they
Which
had
I need.
smell-o-vision
Oh, yeah.
where they had
We're
smells
film
released.
students.
in
I
it.
honestly
But,
think that 3D might actually be around longer than we expect.
I know for a fact.
I know smell-o-vision in 3D originally was supposed to be a gimmick
the
made by the
future.
film industry to get people
Yeah.
away from television because
Yeah.
television was stealing away from film. But that was supposed to be a gimmick to get them back into film, and I don't know. I just think it's just another gimmick, just like Laserjet was just another gimmick.
To be fair, widescreen was a gimmick, and that has stuck around.
And color.
And color was a gimmick, and sound was
Yeah.
a gimmick. So I mean, to be fair, there are some leaps, and again, the other
But
thing
then
too.
But those are gimmicks
So-
that needed to come
Devil's
around.
advocating a little bit. I think there are, in the right hands, it can be used well. So again, Cave of Forgotten Dreams, Herzog knows what to do with his DPs and with his cameras, right? So if someone knows what they're doing, they can use it to good effect. But if it's just used to give artificial depth and awkward dimness to an otherwise
Yeah. Right.
tepid blockbuster, it's not going to change my mind.
They need to
Yeah.
develop
You
it
need-
more.
you
They
need
need
it-
to develop it a lot more because
Yeah.
it gives me and a lot of people headaches.
Yeah.
I mean, they
can't
got to
watch
release
it.
one film where they pretty much say that, you know, if you don't have 3D, then it's not film. I mean, it's as simple as that. Just like
We're
just
just
like
evolving into
you got to put them
virtual
in that state of mind that
realities.
people back in the 1930s felt
Right.
when they had film that didn't have sound after sound. was
Exactly.
released.
Sound was like, oh, I can't even see it now. You know,
I can't even hear
So
it now.
for the most part, we're kind of agreeing that it is sort of being forced on, but it's trying to carry a lot of films that don't really kind of need it to
Yeah.
carry them. Is that really what we're
Yep.
getting at?
and it could evolve, but it doesn't seem to be.
You could have.
Yeah, I mean, I just do want to point out that the way that they are making these 3Ds, James Cameron and I forget who his friend is, but they put in a lot of development and a lot of time and money into developing 3D. It is essentially at a point to where anybody who works in the film right now shoots in 2D. It is fully integratable, and it is integrated, and all you need is one extra person on set to keep it going. And that being said, these companies and everybody that is control, these producers that are in charge, they're going to continue putting in 3D because what they're doing is they're shooting in 3D and 2D. Since they're releasing both, they're not going to get rid of 3D, and
Right.
it is still going to continue on.
There
It
will
will be
so many
developed.
investments
it
have
will
been
be
made.
developed.
It's
It's-
not
and
the
it's a-
same as putting like red and blue together. And
It
like,
costs a lot more to
yeah.
see a 3D film. So if they can milk money out of it, they're going to do it.
Well, then again, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it's like you say, you know, the theaters coming up with fads to
Right.
detract from television and the internet. I mean, TVs now are coming out in 3D, and you got
Right.
like, you know,
Yeah.
it's just
Even-
the waves.
Even video games are coming out in 3D.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that kind of reminds me.
Just thinking about it gives me a migraine. I don't.
That kind of reminds me of our next topic. We're talking about the internet and all these different mediums that we're using to get ideas out there. Propaganda.
Okay.
At what point does film become propaganda? Because it seems like 3D, I'm not saying it's propaganda-ish, but it's kind of putting ideas in our heads. So
Well,
along that
Yeah,
line,
say
what
with
other
Michael
types
Moore.
of
Let's
what
move
point
down
are
the
too
line.
many ideas
Let's move down
coming
the
our
line.
heads? So starting with
Because
Starting with me?
Alright.
Actually,
Alright.
no, I'm sorry. Ebit, let's start with you. We start with Ebit all the time.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Oh,
Ladies first.
okay. All right. So I think that when film becomes propaganda is when it's like essentially this may sound very bland, but when it's trying to propagate a message, be it good or bad. I think that you know a lot of the documentaries out there are more opinion-based propaganda films than like factual-based.
Now we will have a
Yeah,
debate.
examples.
Now it's debate time.
Yeah,
Keep going,
examples.
Dan.
Now, it's debate time.
Well,
Well, I
I'd
mean,
say-
I think a lot of, you know, like, I think they all have good valid points. Like, I'm not saying that it's bad. Like, we have such a bad connotation with propaganda.
True.
Because it's so associated with, like, you know, wartime.
Even with Michael Moore.
Yes. Even with Michael, what?
Even with Michael Moore. Never mind.
Okay,
Anyway.
so.
I'll get to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I think that documentaries, especially, I think they need to be careful to not just make it one opinion. Like, they need to show both sides, and it needs to be factually based. And I think that, you know, even anti-war films. Those are propaganda films.
Sure. Edward, you seem like you got a lot
Yeah,
to
I'm
say.
definitely. I'm ready
Yeah,
to
go
drag
for
in
it.
here.
Go,
Okay.
go.
The thing is, every film is ideological, whether it is upfront about it or not. Docs are typically upfront about their ideological messages, but a Hollywood film, like classic Hollywood cinema, has these tropes, like heteronormative, like when a guy and a girl end up in the movie and then like they have to get together because marriage is the meaning of life, right? Like that's ideological. Like the difference between calling a film ideological or calling it propaganda is whether you agree with the film. If you disagree with the film,
Whether enough people agree
propaganda.
with it.
If you agree with it, oh, that's just the way it is. You know, like, so I think that all films are ideological, and I don't think they could be any other way. Everyone has ideologies that they bring into what they do. And I don't think, when you say both sides, there might be 100 sides to an issue.
Sure.
So you can't, if you want to incorporate both sides, that's your choice, but it should be a director's choice or a writer's choice or what have you to incorporate however many pieces of ideology, however many angles of ideology that they want to into their film. And whether they're upfront about it or not is their choice as well, I think. I don't think we should call it propaganda.
Okay, maybe I should rephrase that and say, like, films written, produced with the intention of giving the viewer, taking their ideology and, like, imprinting it on the viewer. You know, saying, after they watch this film, they will hate jazz. You know, it's just, you know, something like that, you know, with the intention of changing the mentality of the person watching it.
But
rather than just taking in their own, like, you know, basic views of the world
Are you gonna
and putting it
anytime
into an art
soon,
form.
it's his
JJ,
turn.
Sorry.
Like I said, going back to documentaries, I mean, seriously, Michael Moore, they're just some documentaries. Him and Bill O'Reilly both going on both ends of this political spectrum there. I mean, there's never been a time when I walked out of a movie and just seriously just, you know, gotten pissed off. I mean, Capitalism, a Love Story. Walking out of the theater, I just honestly felt pissed off just watching that movie. But, yeah, I mean, seriously, documentaries, the whole idea about photography being objective is entirely hegemonic. You know, this idea that, oh, we got concrete evidence here, we got film, we got proof, we got interviews. The idea that it's supposed to be objective is entire bullshit, like just entire hegemonic bullshit. That really they're just slanting it to their own view, to what they want to tell, the message they want to do. But narrative television though, I'd say narrative film. It depends which type of narrative film. I know, for example, one movie that I thought was really funny, The Other Guys. I know they ended at the credits with the whole thing about Bernie Madoff and the Ponzi scheme, about how a Ponzi scheme starts, and I was like, wow, you're gonna end a comedy on just a huge buzzkill of a political message there. Really?
All right,
Yeah.
guys.
Reality is such a
I think we made a
buzzkill.
lot of great
Yeah.
points. There's plenty. Okay, one last word.
One last thing.
word. That's it.
Last word on this.
That was
is-
it. And coming back after
You're
the break,
an
we
asshole.
have a whole lot more to come.
Go Michael Moore!